All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of our Aquarium's Online Academy. My name is Talia. I'm from our Education Department. I'm excited to share a little bit of my afternoon with you. So today we're going to be exploring some pretty cool ocean friends. We are going to be exploring some jellies today. So we start us off in looking into one of our jelly exhibits. We're also going to be exploring plankton and kind of discovering a little bit more about what that means. What is plankton? So, um, as we go through our program today, if you have any questions, if you are curious about anything, if you're wondering about something, you're like, oh, I always wanted to ask that, you are welcome to text in those questions live. The number is down below on your screen. I'll point to it right over there, 562-286-1838. So during our program today, you are welcome to text in those questions, and we'll do our best to answer them on the air. If you're watching this later after the fact, you're welcome to email those questions instead. So again, while we're on the air at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, you are welcome to text those questions in as we go. Hey, all right. So let's talk a little bit about um, plankton. Plankton. What do we think about when we think about plankton? What does that word spring to mind? What do you think? I know sometimes I might think of something small. Maybe I'm thinking of a particular character from a TV show. But plankton, the word plankton, doesn't necessarily mean that they're small. There are some small plankton out there, but there's also some really big plankton out there. Jellies are actually considered a type of plankton, even though some jellies can get bigger than me. So jellies are considered a plankton, and plankton means that you are an ocean drifter. You're an ocean drifter, and that kind of means that you go with the flow. You need to go where the current takes you. You can swim, but you are not the greatest swimmer. You can't go against the current of the ocean. So if I become Talia Plankton, whoosh, I just became Talia Plankton. Did you see it? It was pretty fast. If I'm Talia Plankton, and the water's going this way, can I go that way? No, I have to go that way too. So I have to go this way with the flow of the ocean. Talia Plankton's not going to try not to run into things in the studio. All right. And if I'm Talia Plankton again, and the ocean current's going this way, can I go that way? No! I have to go this way too. So Talia Plankton has to go with the flow of the water. And that's what it means to be a plankton, is that you are drifting around the ocean. You're going with the flow of the currents. Now, plankton in general are categorized into two different groups. You have some plankton that we call zooplankton, and you have some plankton that we call phytoplankton. Those are kind of the two big groups of plankton. And what that means is some of them are animals, and some of them are plants. Now, those two words, zooplankton and phytoplankton, if I had to pick which one's an animal and which one's a plant, what would I pick? Zooplankton, phytoplankton. One of them kind of seems a little bit more familiar to me. And I'm kind of thinking about, if I was going to look for an animal, where would be a good place to find them? Maybe a whole bunch of them all together, like in one spot. And not necessarily like a forest or an ocean or, that's cool back there. Miss Jen is helping me with all the media, so I'm getting to learn all the fun pictures we have on the computer to choose. That's cool. But if I was going to look for an animal, maybe I'd want to go visit a zoo, because a zoo has a lot of animals kind of all in one spot. So that's how I like to think of the zooplankton of the world are animal plankton. So those would include probably some friends that are hanging out behind me here, as well as the jellies we were exploring a little bit earlier. So we have zooplankton, like this awesome West Coast sea nullet here, this little jelly here. Um, Actually, it's a pretty big jelly. Not as big as me, but it's a pretty good sized jelly. Um, but jellies are zooplankton, and that leaves the rest to be phytoplankton or plant plankton. So you have animal plankton and plant plankton. Ooh, here's a good. Oh, now I see it's a spiral. I was like, what is that? This is a good picture of some phytoplankton. And now, plant planktons, if we're thinking about plants like trees and flowers, phytoplankton are going to serve a lot of that same role that flowers and trees do on land. So you can see there's lots of green in these phytoplankton. And just like a flower or a plant on land, phytoplankton is going to be photosynthesizing. They are going to be getting their energy from the sun, just like a flower or a plant does. So that's where they're getting their energy from. And because they're photosynthesizing, they are producing oxygen. So just like flowers and trees produce oxygen on land, phytoplankton actually provide a lot of the oxygen that we breathe, not just for things in the ocean, but for the whole planet as well. I think it's about 3 out of every 4 breaths you take contains oxygen produced at sea from not just big things like kelp forests or other types of maybe more obvious looking plants that are in the ocean, but also all these teeny tiny little phytoplankton that are hanging out in the ocean as well. So yeah, that's a really important role that phytoplankton, that plant plankton, plays in our ocean. And just like phytoplankton plays a role, zooplankton plays a role as well as sort of serving as the base of the food chain. What I mean by that is that things are going to eat things that are going to eat other things that are going to eat other things, up and up and up and up and up, till you get to a really big animal or organism. Ooh, this is look familiar. This might look familiar to some cartoon fans. But this is a copepod. This is what that cartoon character is actually based off of in real life, which is pretty cool. It does have one big red eye right in the middle of its head, right there, which is pretty cool. So they form the basis of the food chain. So they're going to be eating the plant plankton into their bellies. And then they are going to be a whole bunch of them. And they're going to be eaten by, let's say, a small fish. That small fish is going to get eaten by a bigger fish. That bigger fish is going to be eaten by an even bigger fish. And maybe that gets eaten by something even bigger, like maybe a whale or a shark or a seal or a sea lion, or maybe even a human to have on a dinner plate. So up and up the food chain it goes. So that's why, like a whale friend here. Let's see, that's like oh, I see what's going on now. Okay, the whale is on its side, I think. And then those are the pleats underneath him. He's going, oh, with his big old mouth. They like to eat a plankton called krill, which is a little shrimp. So something even as big as a whale can be eating some yummy, yummy plankton. They don't have to wait for the plankton to be eaten by all the fish to go eat the plankton sometimes too. But yeah, they're really important in the food chain because if there wasn't any phytoplankton or there wasn't any little animal plankton in the ocean, some of those other bigger friends that are further up the chain, they might not have any food anymore. So it's really important, excuse me, that we keep our oceans nice and healthy for our plankton friends to hang out in. One of the other distinctions I wanted to talk about a little bit with our plankton as well is that there are some animals, mostly animals. Yeah, let's go with that. Some animals that will stay plankton their whole life. That's their whole existence. They're going to be some form of plankton. So again, not a great swimmer, going with the flow. They need to go wherever the ocean current is taking them, just like plankton. So those are called holoplankton because they spend their whole life, that's how I like to remember it, their whole life as plankton, are holoplankton. And those would be things like our copepod friends, our sea jellies, spend their whole life as plankton. This is an amazing jelly. I love this jelly. This is a flower hat jelly. Can I wear it? Does it look like a hat? Is it beautiful? It's pretty amazing. It's very fashionable. I'm gonna wear it to the derby, I think. Anywho's, um, but this is an amazing jelly. I love. Do you see all the green? So that's not like we were thinking about with our phytoplankton. That's something a little bit differently. That is a special protein they have in their body that if you shine a special light on it, it turns green. Isn't that cool? So some jellies can make their own light. Some other jellies can make special light if you shine another light on it, which is pretty cool. And scientists have used, I'm going on a big tangent right now, scientists have used um, this little green protein to help humans by almost making like a little glowing tracker. So if they're trying to see where does this thing go in our body, sometimes they can use something that's based off of this little green protein to help humans out in medicine as well, which is awesome. I love that we're learning from the ocean. All right, so some animals, whole life is plankton, um, holoplankton. Some animals, they switch at some point in their life. They spend some of their life as plankton, and then they change into something completely different. Ooh, like Mr. Moo, like this cowfish here. Um, definitely spends its life partially as plankton, and then as a pretty amazing fish. Jen is throwing me some curveballs here. Um, so, but yes, so when fish are bitty bitty babies, they're plankton. They're kind of swimming about, not the greatest swimmers. And then as their body grows, they will turn into amazing fish, like this particular cowfish over here, and other fish as well. So some animals will change as they go through their life. They change in the middle M meroplankton. That's how I like to remember that. Other animals that might change, crabs look really different from when they're babies. Ooh, hello crab. Crab looks very different from when they're babies to when they're grown-ups. And even sea stars look super weird and different. I don't know if we got some grown-up sea stars. I'll work with that. Um, they look like this weird little like blobby flower. Let's put it that way. Try to be descriptive today. Um, and then they will be swimming around. They will say, "I'm tired. I want to stop swimming." They're gonna settle on the ground, and then their body's gonna change into some pretty amazing sea stars, like all these bat stars here. Excellent. And again, my friends, if you are curious about anything, if you are wondering about something, if you're like, ooh, I want to know more about that, please feel free to text in those questions. Again, that number is down below on your screen, 562-286-1838. You are welcome to text them in. Yeah, so that's a little bit about what plankton is and kind of the different types of plankton. Again, we have those animal plankton, plant plankton, why they're so important, helping out with the food chain, serving as food for lots of different animals, providing oxygen. Hello, lagoon jelly, hanging out over here. Um, and then they also, um, yeah, then there's also different types of animals that will either be plankton all the time or, again, change in the middle to be something else. Hello, sea cucumber. I get all sorts of friends today. So I would believe a sea cucumber would be a meroplankton because they will probably be a little squiggly friend in the water and then settle and then become a pretty awesome sea cucumber. I love sea cucumbers, by the way, because they defy expectations. They look very spiky, and animals will see that and be like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to eat that for a snack. That looks like it might be a little ouchy. But they're actually, can I tell you a secret? Are you good at keeping secrets? They're actually really soft and squishy. So they're one of my favorite animals to explore in the ocean is the sea cucumber friend. All right, so let's focus in a little bit on one particular type of plankton. I mentioned that jellies are considered plankton as well. So I'm wondering, Miss Jen, if we can jump. Here's a beautiful picture of a jelly. I'm wondering if we can jump in back into our jelly exhibit just to practice making some observations, because I'm curious if there's some particular things that my anybody watching at home is interested in, or and that these kind of stands out to them. So you can definitely look a little bit more at their bodies too. I'm going to get out of the way so you can see more jellies. To see what we notice about our jelly friends, I'm going to give you maybe about, let's go for at least 30 seconds, maybe about a minute or so. I might go for a minute. I'll be generous. So as we're practicing making those observations, we're trying to see, basically, that's a really fancy, sciencey way to say we are going to do some learning by looking. So we're just going to kind of see, what do we see? Do we see any shapes, any colors, any patterns? Are they going this way? Are they going that way? And again, like, does anything surprise us? Does anything stand out to us? Am I seeing something that I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, or oh, that's moving in, or that's doing something different than I thought it was going to do. And that's what I think is so much fun about science sometimes, is it surprises you. You're just like, oh, that's different. I want to know more about that. All right, friends, I'm going to give you maybe 10 more seconds to wrap up those observations. And again, if you would like to, again, share those observations or text in any questions as you're pondering our jelly friends, you're welcome, again, to use that number on your screen. 562-286-1838. All right, friends. So I hope that got you a little curious about our jellies. One of the things that I think stood out to me is watching them move. I like to watch our jellies move. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a lava lamp. They're kind of moving around our exhibit here. What part of the body are they using to move? What do you think? What part? 'Cause I know, like, when we move, we have our feet and our legs, for the most part, is a lot of how we move. Maybe if we're on the monkey bars, using our arms more. What part do they use to move? Ooh, if you noticed this part here, kind of going like this. In and out, and in and out, and in and out, kind of like this. In and out, and in and out. That is kind of moving with their body. That's the part of their body we call the bell. I think because scientists saw that and it reminded them, ding, 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 of a little bell. So that's the bell, and there are muscles in there, and they move that up and down like that, and that helps them move a little bit through the water. Again, they're still plankton. They can't go against the current, but they can kind of move a little bit beyond letting the ocean waters kind of push them here and there. So that is one of the ways that they move. Jellies also have lots of really cool adaptations to help them out in the ocean, because they not only have to move, they also have to eat, and they have to kind of protect themselves as well. So probably another thing you might have noticed is that beyond having this bell-like body, they have a lot of stringy bits. There's a lot of stringy bits coming into view behind me. Excuse me. Coming in behind me too. Now, do all of these look the same? What do you think? Do they all look similar? Or are there some that are maybe a little bit different than others? Oh. All right, I noticed there are some that are really long and thin. Right here. Kind of orangey, at least from my perspective. And there's others that are kind of thick and frilly and ribbony and yellowy. So they have two different types of um, tentacles, essentially, long stringy bits, to help them get their food and defend themselves. So the stingy bits of a jelly, you might have heard that some jellies can sting. Most jellies can sting. The strength of it varies from jelly to jelly. They will sting with their tentacles, these long stringy bits, and get some food. And then they're going to use these really thick ones. These are really strong. They're going to use these really thick, we call them oral arms, to grab that food and bring it up to the middle where their mouth is. Now, if you're looking for a beautiful smile, if you're looking for some teeth, you're not going to find it with our jellies. They don't quite have a mouth like we have a mouth. They have more of an opening or a hole. The food's going to go in there, and then they're going to digest it in their tummies. Now, some of our jellies, like our moon jellies, they have 4 sections to their tummies. Like it kind of looks like a flower or these little horseshoe shapes. They have 4 sections to their tummies to help them eat some yummy food. They like to eat teeny tiny little shrimp for our moon jellies here. So they will help them get their food, digest their food, and then just like us, they're gonna poop it out. But that's how they get their food. Those stinging cells, these would be the stinging cells here. Those help the jellies defend themselves as well. So not only are they gonna help grab their food and make them still, that's also gonna help protect them as well. If something's trying to eat them, like say maybe a sea turtle, or a bird or something else, if something else is trying to eat them, the can use those little stinging cells to help protect them as well. So those are some adaptations. Ooh, is this an egg yolk jelly? It looks like an egg yolk jelly. Nice, I got it. Haha. All right, egg yolk jelly. Jellies are so cool. There are many different shapes and sizes and patterns and colors. Jellies are pretty awesome. But yeah, this one's an egg yolk jelly. So those are some adaptations that our jellies have to help them out in their home, in their habitat. So I think it's really cool. It's something that might seem kind of simple at first. They actually don't have a brain. They don't have a heart. But they have things that are equivalent, but a lot simpler. So I think they are simple, but complicated animals. They're really cool friends who live in our ocean. And again, we have a couple more minutes, my friends. So again, if you are curious about anything, if you're wondering about something, you're welcome to text those questions, and I am happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Again, that number is down below on your screen, 562-286-1838. Happy to answer any questions. Another thing I wanted to talk about while I have a little bit of time. We were talking about babies a little bit earlier with our planktons and how sometimes animals look very different when they're babies versus when they're grown up, especially if they kind of started as this weird little plankton friend and then become something completely different. Jellies actually have a really interesting life cycle as well, so I thought we might use our last couple moments to explore that a little bit as well. So again, jellies spend their whole life as plankton, they're hollow plankton, and they're going to start out as kind of a little egg. So you have male and female jellies. They're going to make a little egg. Little egg is going to go through the water. And then eventually it's going to settle on the ground. Ooh, settle on the ground, or in this case, on a wall in one of our exhibits. They're going to settle. They're going to stick to something, and then they're going to do something really interesting. Do you see how some of these... Ooh, I'm going to get out of the way. Some of these are getting really long. This one's kind of really long. This one's really long. And this one is really long. But do you notice that it almost looks like they have like segments to them? There's like almost like lots of little circles all stacked on top of each other. So what's happening is the jellies are almost making copies of themselves. They're kind of making a stack of pancakes of themselves. Just like this. So each one of those little circles is a little jelly friend, and they're all the same jelly. So they'll make a stack of pancakes of themselves, and then all of a sudden, the stack of pancakes, boop, they pop off, and they start to become individual little jellies. You can kind of see them a little bit right there. They almost look like little flowers. They're called ephyra if you want to be super fancy about it. Um, but that's what the jellies look like when they've popped off their little pancake stacks. Um, ooh, there's a big one right there. I think they look like little flowers pulsing around. Um, so those are the ephyra, and they will very, very young little jelly. And then from that, they're going to keep changing because they don't quite look like they look when they're grown-ups, right? There's like some segments, there's some pieces. So eventually, this is going to change a whole bunch more times. And eventually, this part of their body is going to kind of fill out. They become that beautiful bell that we remember when they're grown-ups. And then the whole cycle is going to start all over again. So yeah, I think the jelly life cycles are pretty cool as well. So again, a really interesting example of an animal that spends its whole life as plankton. All right, my friends, I hope we had some fun learning a little bit more about plankton today. We learned a lot. We learned a little bit about what plankton is. So plankton, again, I know a lot of times we think about little friends when we're thinking about plankton. Maybe even something that you need a microscope. You need a special tool to even see in the first place. But plankton, while there are some small ones, there's also some big ones. And then plankton refers to the way that they move. So again, they are the drifters of the ocean. They're going with the flow. If the water's going this way, they have to go this way too. If the water's going that way, they have to go that way too. We learned that there's different types of plankton, right? There are zooplankton and animal plankton, um, and that they each have different roles to play in their environment, right? So plant plankton, just like trees and flowers on land. Ooh, beautiful, beautiful plant plankton. Look at that. Isn't it cool? Plankton are like super awesome. I think it looks like glass art every once in a while too. Oh, so pretty. They look like little sequins. Oh, that's beautiful. Um, anyways, beyond their esteem and beauty, they play a very important role in the ocean. So again, they're providing oxygen, not just for all of our ocean friends, but for the whole planet as well. So that's super important. They provide oxygen. They provide food for the zooplankton. The zooplankton, in turn, provides food for lots of other different things. Anything from like just a big old whale munching on krill to kind of going up that food chain, right? So a little fish eats the zooplankton. Bigger fish eats the little fish. Bigger fish eats the big fish, etc., 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 all the way up. And we learn, hello, whale friend, like this friend here going gulp to eat some lovely, lovely krill. And that some animals spend part of their lives as plankton, like sea stars and crabs and other friends. And then some animals, and sea cucumbers, which are amazing. Some animals spend their whole life as plankton, like our jellies. And then we learned a lot more about jellies, how they move with their bell, how they eat with their tentacles and their stinging cells, and how they defend themselves with their stinging cells, and how their other tentacles that are a lot thicker, those oral arms, will help them grab their food. Those ones right there will help them grab their food and bring it up to the middle where their mouth is, so they go nom, 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 and eat them. And then we discussed a little bit about the amazing life cycle of a jelly as well. So I hope you had a lot of fun exploring not just jellies but plankton with me this afternoon. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. We're going to be signing off for now. We'll be back in just a little bit with our last program for the day at, I believe is it 3 o'clock, Miss Jen? 3 o'clock, at 3 o'clock in half an hour. We'll be back for our last program all about sharks. You're welcome to come back and join us for that. But thank you again for spending a little bit of your day with us. As we're signing off, if you still have questions, you're welcome to still ask them. We just ask that you email us instead. Again, that is live@lbaop.org. So if you got further questions about our plankton and jelly friends, you're welcome to email them in at this point. And again, we'll be back at 3 o'clock to talk about sharks. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.